Our top stories for tonight. His Majesty the Supreme Commander is briefed on the Public Security Department's measures to upgrade policing work. Lawmakers urge the government to fight tax evasion and fight corruption in their debate of the state budget. And as fighting intensifies in Deir ez-Zor, Syrian rebel groups say they will attend peace talks in Kazakhstan. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. His Majesty the King, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, was updated on the Public Security Department's measures to upgrade policing work. The agency's Director General, Major General Ahmed Al-Faqih, also briefed the King about the traffic strategy to limit accidents and address congestions. He also said the criminal police departments should be equipped with the necessary technologies to combat crime in all its forms. The King said he is proud of the security agency as the country's first line of defense and stressed cooperation within the security body to deal with regional challenges. He noted security personnel's efforts to safeguard the people's rights and freedoms and enhance the rule of law. He also emphasized the need for training of security personnel and improving their living conditions. Lawmakers urge the government to trim the benefits of senior staff in public agencies and recover what they called stolen money in the fight against corruption. On the second day of their debate of the general state budget, MPs also demanded a crackdown on smuggling, tax evasion, and tax reform as alternatives to tax hikes. Also during the session, chaired by Speaker Atif Al-Tarawneh and attended by Prime Minister Hani Al-Mulki, emphasis was placed on building a strong partnership between the public and private sectors, attracting foreign capital and creating an investor-friendly environment free of red tape. One lawmaker called for administrative reforms to stop overstaffing in public institutions and curbs on borrowing to address the deficit. Other MPs aired the needs of their respective regions for better infrastructure, education, health, and other services. Her Majesty Queen Rania met with the Lower House Education Committee to discuss critical issues related to education reform. During her meeting with the MPs, Queen Rania said the provision of quality education to every student is an obligation, not an option. It is the most important investment a country can make in its future generations, Her Majesty added. She said she has been witnessing a heightened sense of social awareness among Jordanians about the decline in Jordan's education quality and that reform has become a popular demand. But she also insisted that an inclusive reform approach requires participation by all. Commenting on the central role of teachers and education reform, Queen Rania explained that countries which succeeded at raising their students' academic performance had made substantial investments in teacher training. On the issue of curricula development, Queen Rania told the MPs that any changes must respect Jordan's social and religious values. United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, in cooperation with the Ministry of Health and the American Embassy, have carried out a 2-year project to raise the capacity of medical facilities in the kingdom to meet growing demand. The project is aimed to ease the pressure on medical facilities to provide services to a growing population and Syrian refugees in the kingdom. The UNHCR has provided equipment to medical centers and hospitals across the kingdom, including laboratories. The U.S. government is the largest donor to the UN Refugee Agency in Jordan.
Today, the hospital director briefed me on how there's currently a 90% occupancy rate here, up from 70%. And it really demonstrates the challenge that the Jordanian medical sector faces with the increase in population also caused by Syrian refugees. And so I was very proud to see the partnership between UNHCR, the Ministry of Health, and the U.S. Result in such targeted assistance to the hospital, supporting the neonatal unit, supporting the dialysis unit, helping in the emergency room, areas where there's a critical need. And what I wanted to stress today is that we remain committed to standing side by side with Jordan. We remain committed to our partnership with UNHCR. There's much more that needs to be done and will be done. But the hospitality and the extraordinary generosity of the medical professionals here who have risen to the challenge, I think moves us all.
Yeah, I would like to thank the Jordanian government, the Jordanian people, the people of the United States of America and the U.S. government for the generous contribution that they have made today. Today we are at one of the 42 hospitals that we were able to fund thanks to the contribution of the U.S. people and the U.S. government in support of the Jordanian Ministry of Health. We are very grateful to Jordan to host a large number of Syrian refugees, 80% that live amongst the Jordanian communities, and with a contribution of over $6 million, which is just one of the different sectors that the U.S. government supports UNHCR with to support both refugees and host communities. And we are grateful again to the Ministry of Health for having hosted us today for this event.
In Syria, Daesh terrorists launched their fiercest assault in a year against the besieged government enclave in the city of Deir el-Zur. The terrorists are trying to cut the enclave off from a nearby military airbase. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitoring Group said at least 82 people were killed. Among the dead were army and allied militia, Daesh terrorists and civilians. The fighting was around the Deir el-Zur cemetery and a road junction locally known as the Panorama Roundabout, where fighting was the fiercest. The fighting comes amid preparations for Syrian peace talks in Kazakhstan. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed the talks with his Turkish counterpart. Syrian rebel groups announced their decision to attend the peace talks in Astana on January 23rd. Iraqi special forces battled Daesh terrorists in districts of Mosul near the eastern bank of the Tigris River. The fighting was more intense in the Shurta and Andalus neighborhoods of the northern city. At least 3 Daesh suicide car bombs targeted Iraqi forces in Andalus, but there was no immediate word on casualties. Iraq's elite counterterrorism service said Daesh were fighting back hard. Iraqi forces have reached 3 of the 5 bridges that connect the banks of the Tigris River. They say they will soon fully control the eastern bank. The army has already taken areas of the river bank further south. Once the east bank is recaptured, they can begin talks on western Mosul, which is still under the control of terrorists. EU foreign ministers met in Brussels to discuss the situation in Syria and the Middle East peace process. German Foreign Minister Frank Steinmeier said that the building of settlements should not undermine efforts to kickstart Palestinian-Israeli peace talks. He added in his remarks ahead of the talks that Israel's security is also important. The talks came just one day after 70 countries gathered in Paris to discuss the Middle East peace process. The Paris conference reaffirmed that only a 2-state solution could resolve the conflict and warned against any unilateral steps by either side that could prejudge negotiations. The UN Security Council will hold an open discussion of the Palestinian issue tomorrow and will be briefed on the outcome of the Paris conference. Turkey's Deputy Prime Minister said the New Year's Eve mass shooting at an Istanbul nightclub was carried out professionally, with the involvement of an intelligence organization. He called it an extremely planned and organized act. Daesh had claimed responsibility for the attack that killed 39 people, including 2 Jordanians, with scores more injured. The terrorist group said it was revenge for Turkish military involvement in Syria. Outgoing U.S. Vice President Joe Biden called for sanctions on Russia to stay, urging the world to stand up to its aggression. He said the G7 nations and European Union should lift the sanctions only after Russia fully implements a peace deal on ending a separatist rebellion in eastern Ukraine and return control of Crimea. President-elect Donald Trump has raised the prospect of ending the sanctions imposed over Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea and its role in the rebellion in return for a nuclear arms reduction deal.
And the international community must continue to stand as one against Russian aggression and coercion. Together with our EU and G7 partners, we made it clear that sanctions should remain in place until Russia fully, I emphasize fully, implements its commitments under the Minsk Agreement, and that the Crimea-related sanctions against Russia must remain in place until Russia returns full control to the people of Ukraine.
Also in response to Trump's comments that he believed other countries would leave the EU after Britain, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said Europe's destiny lies in its own hands. Trump also warned German car companies he would impose a border tax of 35% on vehicles imported to the U.S. market. The plan drew sharp rebukes from Berlin and hit the automakers' shares. Meanwhile, Beijing made its own threats to, quote, take off the gloves, unquote, in state media if the incoming U.S. president continues to rub salt in the wounds over Taiwan. Trump told the Wall Street Journal that the One China policy was up for negotiation. He was talking about the agreement that officially recognizes Taiwan as a renegade Chinese province, and Beijing isn't happy about it. At least 37 people were killed when a Turkish cargo jet crashed near Kyrgyzstan's Manas airport. The plane hit homes in a residential area while trying to land in poor visibility. More in this report.
A village in ruins after a Boeing 747 cargo jet came down as it tried to land in heavy fog. At least 37 people dead, many of them residents of a town near Kyrgyzstan's Manas airport. Reports suggest the plane ploughed through properties for a few hundred metres, damaging at least 15 buildings, personal items and flattened cars among the smouldering wreckage. Kyrgyz officials say the cargo plane, believed to be Turkish, was supposed to make a stopover at Manas near the capital city of Bishkek. It was on its way from Hong Kong to Istanbul with 4 people thought to be on board. But around 7:30 a.m. local time, it hit dense fog as it approached the airport. The hunt is now on for more information as officials try to piece together exactly what went wrong.
Roger Federer made a winning return to competitive tennis after 6 months out of the game, thrilling a packed Rod Laver Arena as he beat qualifier Jürgen Melzer 7-5, 3-6, 6-2, 6-2 to reach the Australian Open second round. The 35-year-old Swiss had to battle hard throughout the 2-hour, 6-minute contest and only really eased clear of his opponent when the Austrian tired in the final set. Seeded 17th, Federer has much tougher battles ahead if he makes it through to the second week of the tournament, but will next pit his skills against American qualifier Noah Rubin. Faltered badly with victory inside before finally overcoming Lisia Tsurenko 6-2, 5-7, 6-2 to reach the second round. British sailor Alex Thompson has broken the world record for the greatest distance sailed solo in 24 hours, covering 994.15 kilometers on his 18.29 meters racing yacht Hugo Boss in the non-stop Vendée Globe round the world race. According to the race organizers, the 42-year-old Welshman covered the record distance in the 24-hour period up to his position report at 800 GMT today at an average speed of 41.36 kilometers per hour. His 24-hour distance beats the record set by French sailor François Gabard in the 2012-2013 edition of the Vendée Globe. And over to the weather forecast. Cold conditions continue for the rest of the night in the hilly areas and the Badia, as well as in the Jordan Valley and the Dead Sea. A light rise in temperatures is expected tomorrow, but it will remain relatively cold in the hilly areas and fair in the Badia and the eastern plains, with high clouds and southeasterly moderate winds. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect a relatively warm day tomorrow with northerly moderate winds and calm seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. Before we conclude, here's a quick recap of our top stories. His Majesty the Supreme Commander is briefed on the Public Security Department's measures to upgrade policing work. Lawmakers urge the government to fight tax evasion and fight corruption in their debate of the state budget. And as fighting intensifies in Deir ez-Zor, Syrian rebel groups say they will attend peace talks in Kazakhstan. We've come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Dana Abu Sham. Thanks for watching and have a good night.